Hello, we are up to day 3 and switching over to that Happy Medium album, which has all of the stories about the London 2012 Olympics. Now, with the Happy Medium album, I'm not doing the same amount of plotting out every single page by the photos and ordering the photos to fit the album. Instead, I've flipped through that whole album, and then I've gone to take a look at my photo library in 2 places, but just quickly. One was that I had a massive stack of prints that I already knew I had printed from when I started working on this project. And when I say a massive stack of prints, here's what I mean. And a lot of these are very similar shots to what I've already put in my album. But then when I flipped through, I also found some whole sections that I left out. But I'm really glad that I still went to my digital library to have a look, because I also realized that somehow when I had first organized all my photos, I left out one really important album. Like, I didn't give it the tag that said it was part of the Olympic story, and it was the opening ceremony. So all of my photos that I had from watching the opening ceremony never got printed, and they're not in my album at all. So that's a little bit of an important part of the story, so I need to make sure that I get some of those printed for the album. However, rather than do a lot of planning, I wanted to stop with my planning there and get started with some actual page making. I wanted to choose one photo from the existing stack and go ahead and scrapbook it to fit the album. But because it's been a while since I've worked on this album, my style has changed a little bit, and I need a little help to get going with this particular style, and I want to make sure that that I do the same sort of things, not that I'm limiting myself, but that I want there to be not a giant divide in the style. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrap lift a layout that's already in the album that comes later in the book than the photo that I'm going to scrapbook now, and I'm going to use different supplies, and I may make a few changes at the end to make it look a little different than this, or it may indeed look very similar. It is a single 4x6 photo, and I wanted something that had one photo and some significant room for journaling, because I wanted to tell a slightly longer story to go along with this picture. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that and show you just how quickly I can get from being a little stuck and overwhelmed with how many photos I have printed and in my library for this album, and how quickly I could just go ahead, instead of sitting back and planning, just have a little idea of the planning and go ahead and get a page done. Starting from the background, this page background has the 2 layers in the back, one with just this stripe showing around the edge, and then a more subtle print here. So I wanted to use this calendar print in the middle this time, because the journaling story is going to be one about how, although the photo is obviously just one moment in time, the story I want to tell is the calendar history behind that moment. And the calendar paper seemed to help with that theme. And then looking here, I've got 2 layers behind my photo, and I have 3 horizontal layers. Now, in this case, I think these weren't actually 12 by 12 strips, they were just small pieces here, but I think today I'm going to work with horizontal strips that go all the way across, so 2 big boxes and 3 horizontal strips. I was thinking that I wanted to have some purple involved in the page, but purple paper is something that's a bit of a rarity in the scrapbook industry, and I actually found that I had some purple and pink on these 2 papers, but they're really old. They are KI Memories papers from 2005. So I have had them a while, but the reason I still have them in my stash was because they're colors that we don't tend to have in collections, so I might as well go ahead and make use of the reason that I kept them and get some horizontal strips from there to include the purple. And then I'm always buying papers with big glasses on it because I wear big glasses, and then I mostly look at the big glass papers and don't put them on my page. So I figured the glasses are pretty central in this photo, even though that's not really what it's about, and that I would go ahead and use a strip of those in that horizontal space as well. And then I need 2 papers behind the photo, and since these are so bold, I thought I would go with some smaller, more subtle patterns, one in the pink and then one in a bit of aqua. The aqua repeats throughout this album, or basically pink and turquoise are on a lot of pages in this album because they were the two colors of the things that I was most involved in the Olympics. So this is from the closing ceremonies behind the scenes, and you can't really tell from this photo, but our costumes, my particular group was turquoise, so I have a lot of things that were turquoise throughout the whole games. And then in this role where I was helping tourists on the street, our uniform was pink and purple, so there's a lot of pink involved in those photos. So it seemed easy to go with all those pink and turquoise supplies to just put those two colors together throughout my whole book. Once the papers are cut, then it's really quick to put that whole format together. I think I'll have the turquoise at the bottom, the purple at the top. And when I do layers similar to this, I want to do just really small angles. Nothing too big, but enough to give it a little bit of movement. The way I've cut that one, this one is a little shorter than I expected, so I'm just going to cut it in the middle where it's not going to show, because that will be covered up by the photo. Then 2 big boxes to go behind the photo. Putting the pink in the back so that I have that contrast between this aqua and that aqua. And then the photo on the top. I'm just looking at the placement. I actually moved the photo all the way over so that it's off the edge of that first mat. And then my title lettering can go right along here. See if I have enough letters to spell what I wanted to write. Next thing I need is space for this journaling, and I wanted a journaling card that had quite small lines, and I have this one which is the right colors. It's an LA Studio card, as are the mint letters, but obviously meant to go this way, but I think in this instance I'd rather tuck the black underneath here. I'm okay if just a little bit of it is showing and have my writing there. I'm not worried about this being the same color as here because I'm going to put this embellishment around, so there's still going to be a bit of contrast down here, even though this is a very similar color scheme to the background. So I'm going to go ahead and write this, and then I'll do all that embellishment, and this page will have come together very, very quickly. Title and journaling in place, so I'm ready for my embellishment. Now, on this layout, I used washi tape, a stamp, a pinked circle punch, and a mix of fabric and pearl brads. And I started to pull out the brads and the punch, and then thought, actually, why don't I just start with the washi tape, but then try something that's a bit closer to the style that I'm using right now. So I've pulled out some pink and purple enamel dots, since I use enamel dots on a lot of pages now. And then I've also got a couple little pieces that I've cut out. So this from an LA Studio journaling card, and this from a Webster's Pages journaling card. And that way I could have a little bit of pink at both corners of the page. So my embellishment's going to go top, left, bottom, right, so I can have one either side there. And I have 2 washi tapes, a pink and a turquoise. So I thought I could just fold it over in half. I didn't mean to do that. Let's try again. This cute little pink and purple rain washi tape is by a Spanish designer and company called Laura by Laura. She does lovely, lovely tapes and stamps. And then this is an older one, and it's, nope, I was worried it might not work anymore, but it does. Okay, this is an older Hambly washi tape. So just a strip of each of those And then I'll top that with the die cuts, scatter some enamel dots. I need to put my LDN 2012 in there too, and I might as well just put it in the same place that I did here, unless there's no room because this card is bigger, so I might move it up to the top. But this is my thing that I started to do to try and have some continuity between all pages, so I want to make sure that that gets on the page somewhere. So I'm going to put this big piece on some pop dots. Pop it down at the bottom of the page. I think it's going to just fit here somewhere. That'll work. And then this one that I was going to use at the top is a journaling card, so that will be the right place for my London 2012. So why don't I do that? I think up here feels a little too detached, but if I tuck it behind, it feels more part of the whole unit here with the photo. And I know I don't have 2012 in these numbers, but I do have the L, D, N. So then I'll do the numbers from the mint green letter stickers. It's definitely overkill that I put this on every single page, but it just became something that I could repeat. So I went with it in the end. It also felt appropriate because it was overkill how much you saw it around town at the time. It was everywhere. Oh, I thought I might like it in a little square, but it turns out I don't, because the 1 is so lightweight with the 2 on top that it just feels like it would fall over. So instead, I'll run it a line over here. Go. And then the enamel dots. So there's quite a lot of pink here, and I'd like to add to the purple, so why don't I start with the purple and do a diagonal line down the page, and I'm just trying to place the dots so that they overlap different layers. And maybe some tiny little pink ones thrown into that diagonal line. Go. And that's kind of a way that's a bit more up to date with how I'm scrapbooking now, rather than these big embellishments and the mist. I've used the enamel dots instead of those 2. There's quite a lot of pattern going on here, so I don't feel like I need to add a lot more. I'm going to leave it right there. So now I'm back into a feel for how I put the pages together in this album, and everything starts to feel like it will all come back, and I can make something that without it feeling like it's completely a different style. And so that's where I will go. I do need to do a little planning with the photos, but not nearly so much as that Plan Ahead album. But it's not completely winging it like my ad hoc album either. So that's my happy medium started, and I'll see you again tomorrow.